All right, in this video, we're going to talk about the nomenclature of carbonyls. So to start out with, we're going to be talking about the aldehydes. In the next section, we'll talk about ketones. And I've gone ahead and just summarized the main IUPAC nomenclature rules for aldehydes. As always, you want to select the longest carbon chain or parent chain that actually contains the aldehyde. We're then going to name that parent chain, but this time using an Al suffix for aldehyde. And then we'll number the chain to give that aldehyde carbon the lowest number, which in the case of aldehydes is always carbon number 1. Aldehydes have to occur at the end of a carbon chain. And then lastly, you would identify and number any substituents coming off the main chain. So for an example compound, let's name this aldehyde. So one thing that can often be confusing or sometimes trips up students, you definitely do not want to number this hydrogen. This is not a carbon. So you'd want to start numbering your chain at the carbonyl carbon, in this case the aldehyde carbon. So since it has three carbons, it's a derivative of propane. Okay, but what we do is we drop the E off of propane and tack on this suffix Al, propanal. So the name of this compound, just a simple 3-carbon aldehyde, would be propanal. If I were to do the 4-carbon compound, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, this is a derivative of butane. We would drop the E, and we would now pronounce this butanal. Make sure you're not saying but anal. When I write this out, you'll see why it looks kind of funny. Okay, we don't pronounce that phonetically. We definitely say it butanal. So that's the basics. Now, if I had a substituent coming off, say there was a methyl group coming off of the 2 position here, this would be 2-methyl propanal. So the other rules that we've learned in terms of IUPAC nomenclature would still apply just as they would in any other compound. In the next part of this video on nomenclature of carbonyls, let's look at the nomenclature of the ketones. So the same type of rules will be applied as you would for aldehydes. It's just we're now going to use a different suffix. And there's a couple other special rules with ketones. So like always, you would select the longest continuous carbon chain or parent chain that actually contains the ketone. You're going to name the parent chain, this time now with the suffix one. It's pronounced own, not one. You'll see what I mean by that in a second. Number 3, you'd number the chain to give the ketone carbon the lowest possible number, and then you would worry about identifying and numbering substituents. So if I had a very simple ketone like this, okay, I would want to number the chain and identify the longest continuous chain to give my carbon that has the ketone carbon the lowest number. So I'd want to start numbering at this end. Now since it's a butane derivative, I drop the E off of butane and this becomes butanone. So I add the one suffix. So this would not be pronounced butane-1. You just pronounce it as butanone. Now, if I did have substituents coming off of a ketone, how would I handle that? So let's do this example where you might think that, okay, well, because I've got more substituents coming off of this position, that's going to dictate the numbering scheme. Well, the number scheme is really dictated by the ketone carbon. Now, in this case, it's symmetric, so I could actually start numbering it here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the ketone is going to be indicated with a number indicating where that ketone is occurring. So this is a pentane derivative, but it's a 3-pentanone, and then it has 2 methyl groups coming off the 2 position. So this would be 2, 2 dimethyl. And then I'm going to indicate the position of the ketone with the number 3-pentanone. All right, so it's this 3 that's actually telling us where the carbonyl, or the one, is in this molecule. So I hope that helps with the basics of nomenclature of carbonyls. I've got a little section past this where we're going to just look at a couple very common aldehydes and ketones that you really should just know the common names of. So to finish up our discussion of nomenclature of carbonyls, there are a couple compounds that you really should know the common names for. The first one is the simplest of all aldehydes, and that's this one. It actually kind of doesn't even look like an aldehyde. Remember we said aldehydes have one alkyl substituent and then one hydrogen coming off the carbonyl. This one actually just has two hydrogens coming off the carbonyl carbon. So because it's a derivative of one carbon, you might think this is based on methane, so you might call this methanal. But I've never actually heard someone really call this methanal. This is the compound called formaldehyde. So as I'm sure aware, formaldehyde is used to embalm or to preserve biological specimens such as cadavers or other things. And what this does, it actually cross-links proteins and other molecules to help them from being degraded over time. If you mix formaldehyde in an aqueous solution, a 70% formaldehyde to water solution is called formalin. And you've probably all smelled this before. It has kind of a real pungent, almost biting odor to it. But that's a common name of this compound. Another compound that you should know that's also a common aldehyde is this one. Now it is a 2-carbon based aldehyde, so you might think it would be called ethanal, which you could call it that. But the common or more widely used name is acetaldehyde. Okay, so this acetate group, or this 2-carbon group, is often referred to as an acetate group, and then we just tack on the word aldehyde. One last one I want to show you is actually a ketone, and you've probably experienced this compound in some way. This is just a simple 3-carbon ketone. You could call this, it could be called 2-propanone, but the common name of this one is acetone. So this is the compound that's often found in, say, nail polish remover. You probably smelled this. It has kind of very chemically sort of biting odor to it. These 3 compounds, formaldehyde, acetaldehyde, acetone, are not only important chemically in, say, an industrial setting, but also they're important biologically as well. As we get more into the biochemistry section of our course, we'll run across these again. So definitely know these 3, formaldehyde, acetaldehyde, and acetone. So that wraps up our discussion of nomenclature of carbonyls. Good luck.